What if the most powerful move you could make was to do nothing at all? No arguments, no explanations, no dramatic exits, just silence. Because when you disappear, you don't just create absence, you create obsession. They don't expect it. They assume you'll come back. They believe they still have control. Until one day, you're gone. At first, they act like they don't care. They tell themselves they'll be back. They feel confident, certain that you won't last without them. But then, days pass, weeks pass, and you're still gone. That's when the panic sets in. They check their phone more often. They look for updates. They start wondering, wait, did I lose them? The silence becomes louder than any words ever could. Because when someone is left without answers, their mind fills in the blanks. And that's when the obsession begins. There was once a manipulator who thrived on control. They knew exactly how to push buttons, exactly what to say, exactly when to pull someone back in. But then their target did something unexpected. They vanished. No messages, no reactions, no closure. At first, the manipulator shrugged it off. But over time, they started chasing. Not because they cared, but because they lost control. And nothing haunts a manipulator more than losing control. In this video, we'll break down why disappearing makes them chase, and how to use no contact the right way. The scarcity effect, why disappearing makes you more valuable. People don't appreciate what they have until they realize they might never get it back. That's the power of scarcity. The moment you disappear, the moment your presence is no longer guaranteed, that's when they start craving you. Not because they love you, not because they suddenly understand your worth, but because the human brain is wired to value what it can't have. People only miss what's gone. When you were always available, they took you for granted. They assumed you'd always answer. They assumed you'd always care. They assumed you'd always be an option. But the moment you stop responding, the moment you remove yourself completely, they feel the void. And that void? It's not just empty space. It's a reminder, a constant gnawing realization that they no longer have control over you. And that realization, it drives them insane. The contrast principle. The mind reacts strongest to sudden change. One moment you're engaged, the next you vanish. No warnings, no explanations, no closure, just silence. And that silence, it's louder than any confrontation, because now they're left confused. They don't understand what happened, and what the brain doesn't understand, it obsesses over. They start replaying every conversation. They start questioning what went wrong. They start wondering if you were ever under their control at all. And that uncertainty, it turns into anxiety. And anxiety, it turns into desperation. Reversing the power dynamic. Before they were the ones pulling the strings, they dictated the pace. They made you wait. They decided when to give you attention. But now, they're checking their phone. They're waiting for a sign. They're wondering if they pushed too far. They start reaching out, testing the waters, trying to pull you back in. Not because they suddenly care, but because they hate the idea that you might be slipping away forever. And nothing terrifies them more than losing control. That's why when you stop chasing, they start chasing you. That's why when you remove yourself, they feel your presence more than ever before, because they lost the privilege of access to you. But this is just the beginning. Let's talk about what happens inside their mind when you disappear. The emotional spiral, how no contact triggers obsession. When you disappear, they don't panic right away. At first, they feel nothing. They assume this is temporary. They tell themselves they'll be back. They convince themselves this is just a phase. That's the denial phase. They still believe they're in control. They still think they have power over you. They still assume you'll break first. And as long as they believe that, they feel secure. But then, something shifts. Denial turns into confusion and anxiety. Days pass. Weeks pass. And you're still gone. No texts, no calls, no reactions. Suddenly, doubt starts creeping in. They start asking questions. Wait, why haven't they reached out? Are they actually serious this time? Did I underestimate them? They start checking their phone more often. They start rereading old conversations. They start overanalyzing every detail. And the longer the silence lasts, the more anxious they become. Because the human brain hates uncertainty. It needs closure. It needs answers. But you're giving them nothing. And when the brain doesn't get answers, it starts creating them. Confusion turns into obsession and regret. Now, their mind is in overdrive. They start imagining scenarios. They start assuming the worst. They start thinking, did I make a mistake? At this stage, they become desperate for a reaction. They check your social media for updates. They ask mutual friends about you. They even consider breaking their own rules just to see if you'll respond. Because now the power dynamic has flipped. Before they controlled your emotions. Now you control theirs. They don't know if you're moving on. They don't know if you're thinking about them. They don't know if they'll ever have access to you again. And that fear of losing you forever is what turns their anxiety into obsession. Why no contact works. No contact isn't just about ignoring someone. It's about creating uncertainty, because uncertainty breeds anxiety. Anxiety breeds overthinking. And overthinking, it leads straight to obsession. And when they start feeling out of control, that's when they make the first move. The chase mechanism, why they always come back. No contact isn't just about walking away. It's about creating a psychological loop that forces them to chase you. At first, they resist. They tell themselves, I don't need them. They try to act unaffected. But the longer the silence stretches, the more their brain turns against them. Because no contact isn't just a tactic. It's a psychological trigger they can't escape. The brain's need for closure. The mind hates unfinished business. When a story doesn't have an ending, the brain obsesses over it until it finds one. This is why ghosting hurts more than a breakup. This is why people replay old conversations. This is why silence haunts more than words ever could. They need an explanation. They need to understand why you left. They need to know if you still care. And when they don't get those answers, they start seeking them. They stalk your social media. They ask mutual friends about you. They convince themselves that there has to be more to the story, because to them, no contact isn't just silence. It's a question without an answer. And they can't stand it. Reclaiming control. Before, they were the ones controlling the narrative. They called the shots. They made the rules. But now, they don't know where they stand. They don't know if you've moved on. They don't know if they still matter. And that uncertainty, it forces them to try and pull you back in. Not because they care, not because they regret losing you, but because they hate the idea that you might have escaped their control. They want to know they can still reach you. They want to test if they can still affect your emotions. So they do what every manipulator does. They come back. The return test. They don't just come back randomly, they test the waters first. A casual text. Hey, hope you're doing okay. A random like on your post to see if you notice. A fake emergency just to see if you'll respond. A sudden apology only to pull you back in. They don't actually want closure. They want a reaction, because if you respond, they know they still have power over you. If you engage, they know you still care. And the moment they see that, the game resets. They stop chasing. They stop worrying. They go back to controlling the dynamic. Why they always come back. They don't come back because they miss you. They come back to make sure you still miss them. Because once they know you've moved on, they lose their control over you forever. But to make no contact truly work, you must avoid these common mistakes. No contact mistakes. Why most people fail. No contact only works if you do it right. Most people fail not because they don't try, but because they make small, critical mistakes that ruin its effect. A single misstep can reset the entire game. And before you know it, you're back where you started. So let's break down the most common mistakes that destroy no contact, and why avoiding them is the key to making them fear losing you forever. Breaking no contact. Too soon. This is the biggest mistake. At first, silence drives them crazy. The uncertainty eats away at them. The lack of control makes them spiral. But just when they're about to break, you respond. You reply to their text. You acknowledge their social media post. You give them proof that you were waiting. And in that moment, they win. Because now they know the silence was just a tactic. They know you weren't really over them. They know you were still hoping for a response. And the second they sense that, the power shifts back to them. Now they no longer feel like they lost you. Now they feel like they have the upper hand again. And what do they do next? They pull away. They become distant again. They make you chase all over again, because now they don't fear losing you. They know they never really did. Seeking closure. Another deadly mistake. Thinking you need a final conversation. Telling yourself, I just want answers. I need to understand why they did this. I deserve an explanation. But the truth is, you don't need closure, because closure isn't about getting an answer from them. It's about deciding that you don't need one. You think a final talk will give you peace, but all it does drags you back into their game, because a manipulator will never give you real closure. They will gaslight you. They will blame you. They will twist the story until you start questioning yourself. And in the end, you'll walk away even more confused, even more frustrated, even more trapped in the past. No contact works because it denies them the chance to manipulate you one last time. Don't seek closure. Be the closure. Leaving the door open. The last mistake. Letting them know that they can still come back. You keep following them on social media. You leave their number unblocked, just in case. You keep mutual friends updated about your feelings, and when they sense that, they don't feel the loss. Because in their mind, you're still an option. As long as they know you're waiting, they will never truly regret losing you. As long as they think they can come back anytime, they will never experience the full impact of no contact. Because people don't chase what's available. They chase what they think they can never have again. And that's why the only way to win is to disappear completely. The one message that ruined everything. There was once a person who executed no contact perfectly. For weeks, they stayed silent. For weeks, the manipulator spiraled, sending messages, trying to get a response. Then, out of nowhere, they sent one text. "Hey, I hope you're doing okay." And just like that, everything collapsed. The manipulator stopped suffering. They stopped obsessing, because that one message told them everything they needed to know. It told them, "I still care." It told them, "You still have power over me." And just like that, the no-contact advantage was lost. The golden rule of no contact. Never break first. Never show weakness. Never let them know you care, because the moment you do, you lose everything. But if you do no contact the right way, you don't just make them miss you, you make them fear losing you forever. The final blow, becoming the one they can't have. At first, they were confident. They thought you'd come back. They thought they still had control. Then, they became confused. They started checking their phone. They started replaying old conversations. Next, they became obsessed. They couldn't stop thinking about you. They tried to pull you back. But when that failed, the real pain began. Because the final stage of no contact isn't just making them miss you, it's making them realize they lost you forever. Emotional detachment, the moment they lose all power. Nothing haunts a manipulator more than someone they can no longer control. Before, they could push your buttons. Before, they could trigger a reaction. Before, they knew exactly how to keep you hooked. But now, you don't care. You don't check their messages. You don't react to their attempts. You don't even think about them anymore. And that is when they truly feel the loss, because as long as they believe you still care, they don't feel the need to chase. But the moment they sense your complete detachment, the moment they realize they're no longer on your mind, that's when it destroys them, because now they're the ones stuck in the past, while you've already moved on. The silent glow-up, watching you win from a distance. They start checking in. They start stalking your social media. They start asking mutual friends about you. And what do they see? You're doing better than ever. You're leveling up in life. You've completely outgrown them. But the worst part? They can't reach you anymore. They see your progress, but they can't be part of it. They see your happiness, but they're not the reason for it. They see your glow up, but they're no longer allowed access. And that's when regret turns into suffering, because they realize they didn't just lose you, they lost the chance to ever have you again. The too late realization, when they start punishing themselves. At this stage, the pain isn't about you anymore, it's about them. They start blaming themselves. They start replaying everything they did wrong. They start realizing they took you for granted. And now, they can't fix it. They can't go back. They can't undo the damage. They can't rewrite the ending, because you wrote the ending for them. And nothing is more painful than knowing the door is permanently closed. The ultimate power shift. In the beginning, they had all the power. They controlled the dynamic. They dictated the terms. But now, you've taken back everything. They chase, you ignore, they regret. You move forward, they suffer, you thrive. And the best part? You didn't have to do anything. No arguments, no explanations, no revenge, just silence. And at this point, you're not just ignoring them. You've taken back full control. The final execution. No contact isn't about punishing them. It's not about making them suffer. It's about making yourself untouchable, because when you disappear, you don't just make them miss you, you make them obsessed with you. Their mind fights against the silence. Their brain craves an answer. And when they don't get one, they spiral. They question everything. They overthink every detail. They start chasing ghosts. But by the time they realize what's happening, it's too late. Because no contact isn't about them. It's about you. You take back your power. You break free from their control. You become the one thing they can never have again. When you disappear, they don't just miss you, they become obsessed with you. The brain can't handle unexplained loss, which is why they can't stop thinking about you. No contact flips the power dynamic. You take back everything they once controlled. The biggest mistake? Breaking no contact too soon, or letting them know you still care. When you detach completely, you don't just make them regret. You become the one person they will never have again. The ultimate power move. No contact is the purest form of self-mastery. You don't argue, you don't explain. You don't seek revenge, you just vanish. And when you do, they lose everything. Now it's your turn. Have you ever used no contact? What was the result? Comment below and let's discuss.